My beautiful and talented grandma, Ardith Bird Miller, was famous for her homemade candy. She taught herself how to make candy and was the founder of the pecan roll. Through trial and error, Grandma came up with the irresistible pecan roll recipe. People from around the world would call her for her pecan rolls. And in 1970, Grandma became the first chairman of the sweet shop of the Festival of Trees. And according to her, she labored there for 32 years. Michael Gorley of the Salt Lake Tribune says the Festival of Trees was created as a fundraiser for a primary children's medical center in the Salt Lake City Valley. During my youth, I was privileged to work with my grandma and to learn the valuable tips of candy making. Her motto, "Homemade is made with love." And this apron I am wearing is one of the ones she wore as she was making her candy. Her number one rule is to make it from scratch and use the freshest ingredients always. They may cost a little bit more, but it is the difference between good and great. I've carried on my grandma's legacy by making homemade candy. And because of her excellent skills that I've learned from her, I have now taken on another challenge, and now I make homemade cakes from scratch, and I also make homemade frosting. My specialty is the bundt cake. Today, I'm going to explain to you the steps and processes I take when I make the cakes. I make different flavors, but today we're going to concentrate on the chocolatier. But before we do, a tip. According to the Boston Girl Bakes, avoid using glass where you'll be using heat because the glass bowls retain heat. Using the wrong containers can cause you to have your stuff go flat, like your cakes go flat and the taste be gone, instead of being fluffy. And because of Grandma recommends to use stainless steel, including the pan, the mixing bowl, and the paddle, so that things stay fresh and that they will not stick to the container. Now I'm going to show you how to start your cake. So first of all, you need to preheat your oven to 350. Then you need to flour and grease your pan. It's very important. I use Baker's Joy, that's got grease and the flour in it, and I spray it around the whole entire pan so that it slides out easily when it's all baked. So I learned a really valuable lesson when I used a glass bowl. I could not find a metal pan to save my life that day, and I needed to make a cake really fast, and I used my glass because that's all I had. I was very disappointed because when I pulled it out of the oven, it stuck to the glass and it was flat, and so I'll never make that again. Another tip I wanted to tell you is from Lauren Allen from Tastes Better from Scratch. It talks about dry ingredients. Your dry ingredients like cocoa, sugar, baking soda, and flour all need to be in the airtight containers, and that's where they need to be stored so they don't go stale. If you keep it open, then the air gets to it and they will go stale. Now there's a difference. With these dry ingredients that we're going to be using, it's flour, sugar, baking soda, salt, ground cinnamon, and instant pudding mix. There is a difference in flour. So instead of using regular flour, cake flour has less proteins and it does not have all the preservatives that unbleached flour has in it. So your cake is going to be a lot fluffier. It's going to taste a lot better. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix all of those ingredients together, all those dry ingredients, and you're going to whisk it together so that you mix them all and there is no lumps. And you kind of set that aside. And now we're going to go to our liquid ingredients. What kind of liquid ingredients are we going to use? We've got sour cream. Sour cream makes your cakes taste fantastic. They give it a rich texture. Your butter. Don't use margarine, use unsalted butter, because unsalted butter helps create the moisture and the richness of that cake. and that's suggested by Catherine Doe of Tastes Better from Scratch. Vanilla, I use vanilla straight from the vanilla bean pod. It's very, very good. It's got a pure aroma and it tastes very good. So, eggs need to be at room temperature. And your eggs are actually building the structure in your cake, and you're going to want to add all of your liquid ingredients to your dry ingredients first. Then you're going to add an egg at a time to your batter to make it just get really nice and fluffy and ready to bake. So according to Lauren Allen from Tastes Better from Scratch, the proteins of the eggs coagulate as cake bakes and forms the cake structure, and so that makes it better and taste much better and tasting. Again, remember that all these liquids except the eggs should be added together, and the eggs added one by one. This distributes that batter evenly, and then it is ready to be baked in your pan. And so you're going to put it in your pan evenly. Put it in here evenly, pour your batter in here evenly, and put it on the middle of your oven at 350, and you're going to bake it for 45 minutes. Now, how do you know it's ready? You're going to use the toothpick method. And the toothpick method is you put the toothpick into your pan and in the center of the cake, and you pull it out. If it's clear, that means your cake is done. If it's wet, you need to put it back in your oven for about 10 minutes. And the reason that you put it in the center is because the center is the last thing that cooks. So you want to make sure that that's all cooked, because you don't want a gooey cake. So that step's really important. And after you do that, when the cake is done, you remove it from the oven and you put it on your counter for about 20 minutes so that you can cool it in the pan. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a decorating cake knife and put it around the cake pan to loosen up your cake so that when it's ready and cool, it'll be easier to come out of. And when it is ready in 20 minutes, you're going to take this, which is a 12-inch round. You're going to put it on your cake pan, and then you're going to turn it over, and you're going to kind of hit it around here. And when you lift that up, your cake will appear. Now my favorite part is making my homemade cream cheese frosting. Now what I've done beforehand is I put my mixing bowl and my mixing paddle in the freezer so that it gets nice and cold, because when you do that, it makes your icing very fluffy. So when I pull it out, I'm putting my cream cheese and my butter, and I'm mixing it for 10 minutes and letting it just get really, really nice and fluffy in there. Then I'm going to add my vanilla, and a little bit by little bit I'm adding powdered sugar, and that powdered sugar creates the consistency of a very nice fluffy frosting. After you've done that, you are now ready to decorate. So you're going to take your 12 to 16 inch, it's called a Wilton's bag that you put your frosting in, and you use a Wilton tip number 12, and you're going to put your frosting in that bag, and you're going to squish the bag, make sure all the bubbles are out, so that when you go ahead and decorate your cake, it's not going to mess up your decorations. So what I do is I start my decorating. Let's say this is the cake. I start decorating by doing my lines from inside the center to the outside of the cake, and I do all those lines, and then I overlap them again. So it makes a nice, beautiful round decoration. The rest of the frosting I put into the center of the cake, and then I decorate my cake with the mini chocolate chips. And here is my masterpiece. It is now ready to sell. My grandma taught me valuable lessons from baking, and I have them all in her cookbook, which I hold dear to my heart. One of my grandma's favorite quotes is, "Make someone happy today. Make it with love and make it from scratch." I happen to agree.